High Level is a full CRM and marketing platform, and I've used some of the best in the SaaS industry. And we are live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch. We've got X going and Instagram. It's Revening's WinsDay. Welcome to WinsDay, Revenue Party people. We have our hot guests and our hot topics we'll be getting into here in just a moment. But first, I have to tell you about a few things. One of them being StreamYard. So StreamYard is what we're going live on right now. And we love it here at Revening because it allows us to be super creative in our live streaming. So we can have those videos like we were just playing. We'll have overlays here going on. But StreamYard, you can click this or scan this QR code. Or just email me afterwards, jessie@revening.com. I'll send you my affiliate link. And if you do, I would love to help you get set up. We have teams of people that get set up from this announcement, and it always blows my mind. But people want to go live on LinkedIn, and that is a service we provide, a done-for-you service. You literally just show up, and we do everything. But you don't need a team like us. You can also do it yourself if you are that savvy person ready to just get your hands in there and do it. So scan that QR code and start going live. If you would like help, you can go to revening.com and we would also be happy to help you. And of course, I have to mention High Level. So we've white labeled High Level. I am a High Level affiliate. But if you sign up with Revening, you get your own High Level account. Since we've white labeled it, it's app.revening.com. It's an agency CRM and marketing automation platform. So it's basically like, those really expensive platforms that I won't name that you use in all of your marketing or sales jobs that the whole team uses. But it's only $97 a month for 3 accounts since it's an agency platform. When we run marketing email, we have our podcast booking calendars that we create for teams on there. We're doing automation, all the things that you would do, you can do right in High Level. But hey, Mark on YouTube from South Florida, where's everyone tuning in from tonight? We want to hear from you. I see there's about 5 of you on YouTube. It's going up on Twitch and even on LinkedIn. I see you're watching, you're lurking, but let us know you're here by leaving a comment. We'll try to put it up on the screen. If you have any questions throughout the show, plug them in because this conversation is for you, the audience. And quick reminder, this show, if you don't catch the whole thing, it is on podcasts on all major podcast platforms that you're listening to. We're hitting about 10,000 downloads per month now on just Spotify alone. Podcast has incredible reach. But anyway, you'll see more about that during our ad time. But right now we're going to introduce our guests. Welcome to the show, Melanie and Lauryn. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Thanks for being back. But we've got some great topics tonight. But before we get into them, could you both tell us your full life story, as we always do on WinsDay, from birth to what brought you to now? I'm going to put the 2-minute clock up. Melanie, could you kick us off?
Sure. I'd like to go first.
Amazing.
My name is Melanie Borden, and some of you might know me from LinkedIn. I'm the founder of the Borden Group, which is an executive visibility agency. So we work with executives, founders, teams, professionals across all industries. And I've been at this now with my own business for about 5 years, almost 5 years in August. I can't believe it's been 5 years already. So from birth, I'm from New Jersey, which is exciting. I don't know if there's anyone from New Jersey here. So I'm a Jersey girl, born and lived. I used to live in New York City, which I go to frequently. And what else can I say? I don't know. What in 2 minutes, what am I talking about, Jessie? I mean, am I supposed to be telling everyone everything? I'm a marathon runner. I'm a mom. My house currently doesn't have air conditioning, so I'm sweating right now. What else can I tell you? I don't know. I love what I do. I show up every single day, and I'm just so happy to continue to do what I love every single day.
Amazing. And I mean, you can always be short and concise. You don't have to fill the full 2 minutes. But yeah, I mean, anyone else from Jersey here? Because if not, I mean, I think we're pretty lucky to have our own Jersey person on the phone because you guys are always have what's the cliche? I don't know. There's just like a boldness about being from Jersey, right? Like
Yes.
you're not shy.
No,
You
not
put
at all.
yourself out there. And gosh, the world needs more of that. Like there's too many timid people not putting it out there. So I always appreciate having Melanie on. And you have an amazing book. Do you want to tell us about your book a little bit?
Sure, I'd love to.
Yes.
So I launched my book in January of this year. My book is called Theater of the Mind, and it's all about what happens when you launch your personal brand and when you're putting yourself out into the world. And it's something that I've gone through myself and that I work through with clients. And I continue to do it every single day and continue to find clients that are going through similar experiences that I am, where a lot of times people go through these things, as you know, Jessie, and they don't have that support. They don't have somebody working with them. They don't have somebody helping them and telling them exactly what to do. So it's really a playbook for someone who's launching their brand from start to finish or continuously.
Yeah. And the world definitely needs more of that. So check out Theater of the Mind. Where can they find the book? On Amazon?
Yes, you can find it on Amazon, and you can also go to my website, humantobrand.com, and look there. And also my website, which is melanieborden.com.
All right. Awesome. Well, I know I have my own copy. I'm super excited about it. It's a good read. I mean, you did a really great job, I think, making it timeless in that like so much change is happening in marketing, right? AI, all the things, but you've made it a timeless classic.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lauryn, we want to hear from you as well. I'm going to reset the clock here. Not that we're really paying attention to it. An audience in the meantime, I see there's 15 of you on YouTube now. Let us know where you're tuning in from. We want to know what you do for a living because this conversation is going to be for you. We're just meeting our guests right now. We're going to get into the topics. But Lauryn, in 2 minutes, could you tell your full life story from birth to what brought you to now?
If I'm talking for 2 minutes straight, then something is wrong. There's everyone. I want to know who, in the Gulf Shores is grilling what he's grilling. But in the meantime, I'll give you a little bit of a rundown. So, I'm from south of Boston, and I run a brand strategy agency, a verbal first brand strategy, meaning we do kind of the words first in branding. We'll get into a lot of that today, I know. And we focus primarily on B2B enterprise companies. So a lot of like big complex tech companies, our work is to help take the complexity out and simplify it so that buyers can understand immediately what they're buying, which is why I'm so psyched to be joined by Melanie here as well, because there's such a sort of immediate connection between personal branding and how leaders, put themselves out there and how they communicate with the world and how their corporations do as well, and how those need to be pretty well linked. I grew up in this area. I went to school in Boston. I moved to New York for a while, worked on the agency side of things, and also worked in tech startups. So essentially with Villain Branding, our agency, we sort of work to create the strategic rigor of a big agency and the sort of speed and efficiency of a tech startup, and kind of merging those two. That's all I got.
Amazing. Well, this is going to be an awesome conversation. We've got a lively crowd, so keep the comments coming. We want to know you're here. But our first topic we're getting into is about searchable leadership content, or searchable leadership strategy. I'm actually excited to hear about this from you, Melanie. I feel like it's a little bit outside of what I'm used to hearing you talk about. I think of searchable as SEO, and these days we're always talking about AI, SEO, GEO, AEO, whatever you want to call it. But you're calling it searchable leadership strategy. So tell us what you mean by that.
Yeah. So one thing that I've noticed that a lot of people will find as they go through their careers is that a lot of spaces are super crowded. And so what I started finding was, I was focusing primarily on personal brand strategy, focusing primarily on LinkedIn. And then all of a sudden the industry just got so overwhelmed with so many people. So I had to kind of make some changes and go back to my roots. I've worked in digital marketing my entire career. So almost 20 years, I've been working in this space. So if you think about leadership, it used to happen in conference rooms. And so today it's happening in search results. So 20 years ago, if somebody wanted to know who you were, they would ask someone. Today, what's happening is they're Googling you, they're going on LinkedIn, they're asking AI platforms, whatever their favorite LLM is, whether it's Claude or AI, ChatGPT, Perplexity, et cetera. They're going and listening to podcasts like this one. They're going on articles. They're reviewing all of this different content, and they're also just scanning what's happening online. And it's not really whether they're researching you anymore. It's what are they finding about you? What are they reading about you? And so I call it searchable leadership. And there's a chapter in my book called Searchable Leadership, essentially where it talks about the 3 different layers of how someone is going to be searching you. So number 1 is search engines, right? So we think Google, we think someone's going into the search and saying, okay, what comes up in those results? What happens when someone appears, when they're doing a search for your name? Number 1 is LinkedIn coming up. Number 2, is it a website? Is it your press? Is it podcasts? Is it, a byline article that you put out? Is it speaking engagements? So if page 1 doesn't reinforce your expertise, you're invisible. And I just want to go on record here to give myself props that I did this for myself, and I constantly do this for clients, but I have successfully dominated the first 4 pages of Google. So I just wanted to say that out loud, because a lot of times I question if I'm doing the right things all the time. And I've been doing this for years. And so for somebody who isn't doing it, just start now, just start. So number 1 is search engines. Number 2 is you have professional platforms like LinkedIn. All right. If your audience is on Instagram, or if it's on Twitch, or if it's on YouTube, you want to focus on those platforms too. What does it say? So for example, with LinkedIn is my platform. That's generally where I'm posting, and that's where I've built my primary audience. So what does LinkedIn say about you? Does it match what's showing up in the search results? Who are you? Who do you help? What do you do? Are you credible? What's your track record? And can they tell this in less than 10 seconds when they come onto your profile? And then number 3 is now the search engines, the LLMs. And so the AI search, you have asking it where you are, who you are. Have you ever asked ChatGPT that? Which is something an exercise that I tell people all the time. Go into incognito mode in Google and do a search for yourself or for your business and ask who is, your name or your business. And most people don't do this, and they don't even realize that it's a factor, and they want to show up in these results, but they don't know how. And so AI is definitely becoming one of the first places that people are going for summaries. And so it's just executives, leadership teams, people want to know what data is out there, what can AI find, how AI is determining who you are, and how authority is built online. And so your reputation only used to travel through word of mouth, and now it's essentially in 3 channels. And that is what I call searchable leadership.
I love that so much. And yeah, it's like, let me take some notes really quick. So much there. Audience, we want to hear from you, because she just shared some really valuable information that I don't think many teens are thinking about. Like, we talk about marketing on here every Wednesday, and we're literally like probably every other Wednesday talking about AI SEO. People want to know how to be searchable, but really genuinely, this is how to do it. And it's really the brands that are going to be bold enough to do it that are going to win. Would you agree, Melanie?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that takes a little bit of effort, and it's different than just saying, okay, I decided I want to go to market and I want to have a personal brand, and I'm just going to pick the social platform, which I think is generally how a lot of people think. Yeah, Reddit is definitely big. I mean, Reddit has a deal with ChatGPT or OpenAI where they are coming up in search usually as one of the first results. But it's something that you have to just know that this is how it has evolved. I don't control it, but it's something that I've seen happen over time. It ties in with different facets. So you have SEO, you have GEO, plus you have the social, and it's all working together. And it's just a different way to approach things, but it's relevant and it's happening whether we want it to happen or not. It's happening. And, what different tactics and steps can you take to get there?
Yeah, it's definitely happening. What's your take on all this, Lauren?
Yeah, I mean, I think Melly's saying something that's really smart, and that models are their job is to repeat what's consistent, right? Overall, that's the entire point of AI. It's a probabilistic versus deterministic tool to use. So when you're dealing with a platform like that, when the entire role of it is to identify what's consistent, the consistency of what you say as a founder or a corporation is hugely crucial. You just talked about Jessie a second ago, like being bold and making sure you're standing out. That's absolutely the case, right? If everyone is using AI to help with their personal or their corporate positioning, then everyone's going to sound the same, right? Because that's the entire point of AI. It's giving you the next most probable thing. So it's sort of built to give you the average. So if you are standing out and you are differentiating consistently in what you say and what your business is saying, then you're going to stand out more in AEO, and you're going to give the models, frankly, what they're looking for so that it can easily sort of pin down what you or your brand stand for.
Exactly. Yep. So would you say, for people who are out there getting started, Melanie, and for those who are like, in this game and just posting content consistently, and they need to get their strategy down, like how do you help people understand what they want to be known for and how they write about that 1,000 different ways? Because it seems like strategy is typically where I see, or we see here at Reveting, people get caught up and content doesn't work for them because if they don't know who their audience is, they don't know what their message is, then it's really hard for content to move the needle for them. So how do you help them come up with that strategy? And what would you suggest to people as actionable advice to move forward with that?
Such a great question. So the first thing that I'll say is I'm going to kind of work backwards from what you just said. So the first thing that I would say is number one, if you don't own a website with your domain with your name in the domain, so jessielizak.com, I would absolutely 100% buy that. In addition to that, and this doesn't, if you work for yourself, if you work for someone else, it doesn't matter. I want to kind of float this concept to everyone. And I know this kind of goes away from what you just asked, Jessie, but there's a concept of having your personal brand as a rainy day fund. Growing up, I always heard from my parents, save your money. You need it for a rainy day. And as I got older, they kept saying it and I kept saying it. And then when I quit my job, they were like, what are you doing? But something that I'll tell you that for myself personally, I tell clients, number one, your brand is your rainy day fund. So buying a website domain, yourname.com. Another thing you could also do that would also help you get started just for the future as you're building is yournametestimonials.com or yournamereviews.com. And that's a great way to kind of start planning for the future. But as far as like actionable strategies and things that you could be doing, I mentioned essentially 3 different ways that you're now being evaluated. And the first way that, right, exactly, that comment that just came in was so right. You have to create it, otherwise it gets created for you. But when I'm working with someone, I'm kind of just like stream of consciousness now. I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, but when I'm working with someone, one of the things that I do with them is we talk a lot about what they know. And I usually focus with them on picking one topic that they're very strong on, and then 2 other supporting topics. And then we build from there. And that would be my advice for anybody, whether they're starting out or whether they're stuck, because it's a lot easier for you to talk from a place of expertise and knowledge, which is part of what these LLMs are looking for. It's also part of Google's strategy as well. So in addition to doing something that would be naturally easier for you, it's also a naturally easy transition for you to start putting yourself out there. So finding those core topics that you are really strong in is always where we start from. And, when people get stuck, that's always what I go back to. And I try to simplify everything as much as possible. And a lot of times people think that, it could sound a little elementary, but it's something that we forget a lot. And especially if we're working for someone else, or even if we're working in marketing, we're good at doing this for others and for businesses specifically, but it's not as always something that's naturally easy. So especially when I'm talking to marketers, Jessie, it's something where if you think about what you're doing for the company that you work for, whether you're on a growth team or whether you're doing something for, a different type of business. Maybe you work in real estate or you work in finance. Take those core things that and transfer that knowledge to yourself. That's how I got started. And I always say that I'm like not anything very special, but I just took things that I understood from working in marketing and just transferred it to myself. And so knowing those topics of what you feel strong about are always a great, easy way to get started.
Absolutely. And I do remember one term you shared before, taking messy action. I always thought that was so powerful. I think I remember hearing you say that on like one of your LinkedIn audio things. I'm like, gosh, I love that. That's just so true. Just take messy action and just test and don't be scared. Like your strategy might not be the best in the beginning, but it will get there.
Definitely. It makes you relatable, number one. I mean, I feel like my life is messy action. I mean, I started the podcast sweating because my air conditioning broke and I'm waiting. It's like that one of the hottest weeks of the year in New Jersey. So, I mean, listen, is that going to stop me from coming on a podcast? No, it's not. If I have a snafu with tech on a webinar, is that going to stop me from showing up? No, because the show must go on. The business is still going. I'm still operating. I still have to pay my mortgage at the end of the month. So messy action could look differently for anyone. But if you're not afraid to put yourself out there, if you're not afraid to be willing to be embarrassed, and just know that everyone is thinking more about themselves than they're thinking about you, and that it's really about the audience that you're serving and it's not about you, then you'll be able to move through it faster.
Yes, such a great takeaway. If anyone doesn't take anything else away, take that away. It's not about you, it's about your audience. But anyway, yeah, let's get into this. I want to hear from the audience though. There's 6 of you on YouTube. We've got 15 of you on LinkedIn and 12 of you on Twitch, 10 of you on Instagram. So there's quite a few of you across channels here lurking. We want to know, where are you from? What is your role? Are you active on LinkedIn? Like how are you building your personal brand? But in the meantime, while you're telling us that in the comments, let's move into our next topic, kind of switching gears into sales, but still talking about brand, but using brand to shorten sales cycles. Lauryn, could you kick us off on this?
Yeah, absolutely. It ties pretty directly to what Melanie was just speaking to about really knowing yourself and sort of focusing on 1 or 2 key topics that you're interested in. I think the difference is at scale. When I'm speaking about this, I'm talking about more of our clients, which are enterprise and enterprise tech companies. But the reason that I think Melanie is telling folks, hey, speak about what you do best, is because confused buyers don't buy. Right. And that's true whether you're talking one-to-one or you're talking about marketing to millions of folks, thousands of other enterprises. If you're a B2B business, they don't buy if they don't understand what you do. Right. They'll think about it for a while, and they'll, what started off as 3 months turns into, a 9-month sales cycle. Maybe they go dark and you have to spend some energy and some time trying to get them to go back. I see it all the time, right? A company has a fantastic product. They have a really strong team. They have a great pipeline. And still they're sitting here saying the deals are sitting, and they may be blaming on, the SaaS apocalypse, or, AI is changing how people buy. And those aren't untrue. But what you're seeing is that everyone's sort of saying, well, sales has to step it up. Sales has to step it up. And frankly, this is me coming from a marketer. And there's always those sales versus marketing kind of challenges. But in this case, sellers usually aren't the problem. The problem is usually that the buyer has heard 3 different versions of what you do. Melody just talked about, how do you show up on Google? How do you show up in LLMs? How do you show up on your website, et cetera? And the same is true on enterprise, right? If you're showing up one way on a website, Then your founder is on stage giving a keynote and she's saying another thing. And then when you're on a call trying to buy this product, the rep on the call is saying something different. The buyer, frankly, doesn't have the patience, the time, or the bandwidth to hold and figure out how to connect those dots, right? They need a single clear story about you in their head to really make a smart decision, so that they frankly can't say no. I saw someone in the comments a minute ago say essentially that your brand is what people say about you, right? It is that relationship. It's something that you want to help to control. But at the end of the day, your perception in the market is the reality of your business, right? So you want that buyer to hold that really clear story. These guys stand for X, right? Coca-Cola stands for happiness, right? I get what that is. Salesforce is all about the customer. I know that that's the case, right? So we don't want them to be in the case of saying, let me think about it. You want to give them, no reasons to say no. But when they are in that world, that's when you have not a selling problem, but a true cash flow problem, right? Every week that a deal sits in this world of confusion because they're hearing so many different versions of your brand, the less capital that you have, right? It affects your sales cycle. It affects how quickly you close deals. It affects your deal velocity, your pipeline overall, et cetera. And what we've seen is that, there's data out there. I think there's a study by Dentsu that said that high clarity brands, so brands that people understand immediately, close at about 31% faster than the ones that are sort of muddy. And they carry about 50% lower acquisition costs, right? So that's all because the buyer knew what the brand was about before they got on the call, right? The brand was sort of selling when everyone else was, your salesperson was off, not even on the call yet overall. And so I think that when a company comes to us as a brand strategy and says, hey, we've got this challenge because people are telling all different stories and I want everyone to come together and tell one single story. And as an organization, the first thing I want to see is the sales data so that I can say, yeah, this is a much bigger problem than just a story problem. It's a cash flow problem. It's a revenue challenge, which is something that folks don't usually hear from brand, right? Brand tends to feel soft. But this is why we care most about looking at the hard numbers, right? Let's look at the story. Let's look at the funnel. Let's look at enablement. Let's look at all of those things together. And then I want to say, can everyone in your company tell what you do in 10 seconds? Can your sellers tell your complete story of what you do in a way that's completely understandable in the same way without a slide deck in front of them? If not, then it's not, a sales enablement problem. It's a language problem. And that's really what we want to help to close overall. Hope that helps.
Definitely. Oh, so good. Before I share, Melanie, what's your take on all that?
It's totally aligned. I mean, I was sitting here just like nodding my head along as she was talking because I kept thinking to myself, that's exactly what happens when I'm working with professionals or founders or leadership teams, where you have to understand not only what the company does, but how do you explain what you do and how do you say it? And it's something that even myself as a business owner that I'm challenged with making sure I'm saying it and I'm saying it the right way. And, when you think about everything that's happening from sales to marketing, and then you have this whole AI factor in, does everybody understand across, from the social aspect, to the search aspect, to just the people aspect, exactly what you're doing and who you do it for and the results that someone gets. And, it's something that a lot of people work on all the time. And I think that it's a constant motion. It's constantly something that's evolving and changing. I know, Jessie, you've made some changes in your business. I'm sure, Lauryn, you have too. And it's one of those things where you're constantly just working and refining and just making sure that, because if what Lauryn said, if someone doesn't understand who you are, what you represent, what you stand for, what you do, it's hard for them to purchase from you.
Especially since those conversations and those questions are happening before you can even get on a call, right? Before you can even defend yourself. LLMs are driving that, right? And you don't have as much control. Even SEO is down, Google's traffic is down like 35% in the last 6 months, which is massive when you're talking about billions and billions of page views. I think that sort of, that seems like you're handcuffed, right? It seems like you have no control, but in actuality, you have all the control with this, right? Once you understand that the funnel is now broken and your brand has to do so much more work for you, you have the ability to really take a hard look and say, is our content everywhere wildly consistent and wildly different from what everyone else is saying in the market, right? And if it is consistent, if it is relevant, right, it matters to your audience. If it is different, and if it is credible, something that you can actually deliver on, then you're in a really good spot with helping to stand out and getting seen by LLMs as quickly as possible.
You know, it's so funny that you mentioned funnel, because I don't remember who it was who I was reading this about, but they were saying that the traditional funnel is broken.
100%.
And that it's no longer a funnel, and now it's a ping pong machine. I don't know if you know who that quote came from.
No, I don't know if I know the ping pong machine. I know HubSpot. HubSpot changed it to is it a ring or something now? It's some kind of circular thing. You know, everyone's trying to find their little piece of trademark pie here, but I hadn't heard ping pong.
Cool. And then there's the bow tie too.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard the bow tie one. I haven't heard that. But it's so true. I mean, people are not just coming from one place, and it's now there's so many other factors that come into play that I think that a lot of growth teams' heads are exploding all over.
Yeah, it feels really scary, right? When suddenly your buyer is coming in, you know, halfway down the funnel at consideration and just wanting to make a choice. And it also is driving these buying committees of what used to be 2 or 3 people, right? Maybe you got the CMO, the CIO, and the CEO signing off. Now it's like 25 to 50 people that are making this decision. And how do you sort of target and personalize your content while still being insanely consistent everywhere? It's definitely not, I don't envy these jobs for folks.
I will also say that I feel that it's having the ability to finesse and make changes and be visible in multiple places. You know, some people don't like the fact that LLMs are involved. And a lot of people there's a lot of fear and uncertainty and doubt around AI. And I understand that, obviously. But I also think that it's a gift that we have, especially for someone who has zero digital footprint, because ultimately it will give them and enable them to be able to create something that they've already created offline and just be able to transfer that online, I think is amazing.
I just saw a question flash up of how important is the voice of the CEO from Linda. Crucial. And I think that Melanie and I probably have different reasons why we would say this. So I'll kick off, and then Melanie, I really want to hear your take. I mean, the CEO has to be wildly aligned with the company message overall, right? But has to do so in a way that is, as Melanie was speaking about, imperfect, authentic, really kind of reliable and reasonable, right? I want to see the human behind the corporation, right? And especially in this world of bots doing, you know, a huge chunk of the search, I want to see the human behind your company. I want to really understand, you know, what you care about. I will, frankly, even if you're running a multi-billion-dollar business, I want to know about, you know, your life with your kids. What's your balance like, right? But I still want to understand that your voice and how you tell those stories about life still align to the company that you're building, right? And LLMs want to see that too, right? So as we talk about kind of the AI search piece of it, it's crucial that they're consistent. But you know, the CEO is as important as, you know, the homepage is, right? It's another voice that's representing the organization overall.
Yeah.
Melanie, do you have a different take?
No, I totally agree with you. And the other thing that I would like to say, because this ties in a little bit to the executive visibility strategy part of the conversation. And I want everyone to think about this concept for a second, that searchable leadership is what people find when they look for you. So you have that piece of it, right? Executive visibility is what causes them to look in the first place. And the most qualified person is most times, rarely the most visible person. Mm-hmm. And I also always go back to, you know, if you were born before the year 2000, if you were born in the 1900s, you know, when we, you know, had horse and buggy, or as my kids tell me, like dinosaur time, you know, you just don't have this innate ability to promote yourself on a platform because it didn't exist. We didn't have it. We just didn't. And so I think that visibility often determines opportunity. And so a lot of CEOs believe that if I do great work, people are going to notice. But today, what's happening is you have recruiters who are searching. You have boards that are searching. You have investors that are searching. You have the media that's searching. You have conference organizers that are searching. So visibility is not optional anymore. It's part of leadership. The rules of leadership have changed. Visibility is now part of it. So if you are in a leadership position, it is now part of the process. And
sorry, go ahead, finish your.
No, I was just going to say, and that's really, what I really believe, and I've seen it. And I know Jessie and I have talked about this for almost 6 years that we've known each other through an online platform, because that's how we met. And it's great and it's exciting that this space, as much as I talked about earlier, how I had to make changes in my business and, start really going back to my roots with digital marketing versus only just focusing on one platform and personal brand. It's exciting that this opportunity exists. And so I really think from a visibility perspective, it's very exciting for a CEO to be able to step into this arena, because it's going to do so many things. And like going on a podcast or doing a keynote, you have the ability to impact at scale and serve at scale. And you can do that from the perspective of your internal employees. You could also do that for recruiting, for talent acquisition. You can do it for client acquisition. You can do it for whatever your goals are for your org. You can attach it to that and make it into something that's actionable, that turns into actual revenue.
Yes. Yes. Gosh, this is so important. And like you said, it leads really nicely into the next topic. But before we get there, we have a brief message. We'll be right back right after this.
This is Mike, also known as Clean with Mike on Twitter. Mike hired a virtual assistant from Cherry Assistant about 2 years ago. Now he has a $50K per month business fully managed by a remote operator in South Africa. His VA from South Africa does the following: closing inbound leads on the phone, Yelp and Google and Facebook, manages his CRM on Go High Level, deals with rescheduling, cancellations, any issues, hires and manages the cleaners, and sends them daily reports and updates. Mike has a fully cash flowing business managed by a remote operator for only $8 an hour. You can also hire a US equivalent worker in the Philippines, South Africa, Latin America for a fraction of the cost with Cherry Assistant. Be like Mike and grow your business with offshore staff.
At Reveting, we help B2B founders, executives, brands turn their live streaming into a real revenue channel. One live stream turns into a podcast. It turns into a social clip. It turns into email content like a newsletter and actual sales conversations. You get to have a lot of conversations with people when you have a podcast or a live stream like this. And if you want to be known, trusted, and remembered in your industry without being online 24/7, worrying about your posting, this is what we do. Just head on over to reveting.com and let's build your show.
I want to give a quick testimonial for the Reveting team. I was really nervous about doing lives. They very much have helped me increase my reach and online presence. So thank you, Reveting.
I love what you and the team do. I've been picking up 50 followers a day just because that content is resonating so well. It's working across a lot of different channels for me.
One of the problems that we struggle with is getting our brand out there. Her team have been able to do for us is the idea of going live on LinkedIn and using that platform to its fullest extent through the way they're able to take the live event and break it down into bite-sized posts, video clips, as well as the content within the posts themselves.
I love our customers. Okay, back to the topics. Let's get into it. So this was all really good. Wow, let's make sure I don't spill anything over here. Executive visibility strategy. Melanie, can you kick us off on this?
Yes, absolutely. So I want you to take this concept and imagine this for yourself, right? So I have a couple different layers, visibility layers. Number one is your positioning. Can people answer exactly what you are known for in one sentence? Most people can't. And this actually goes back more to the conversation we were just having. They're known for everything. So if you're known for everything, that means you're known for nothing. And so that is something that you want to think about, is how you're positioned. Okay, number one. Number two is your authority, right? So what proof exists online about you? Have there been articles about you? Have you been on podcasts like WinsDay? Featured in the news? Are you doing speaking engagements? Are you putting case studies out there? Have you won any awards? Are there recommendations? Your authority is so much easier to build when there's evidence that exists that you do this. And again, if there is someone who is just starting today, this is an amazing opportunity. If you've already started doing this, you can just add on to this. And just keep in mind that when you are focusing on your executive visibility, it's essentially what is causing people to look for you in the first place. And I think that a lot of people forget that you have to also have the consistency, and you have to continue to show up. A lot of people get burnt out. They get tired. It's overwhelming. Jessie, I know you're a content warehouse. I am myself. And it's exhausting. It's, something where you can show up for a few months and then you kind of give up to it. This is something that compounds over time. It's the long game. What I tell everybody is, number one, visibility is not about becoming an influencer or being famous. Like we talked about before, it's really about serving the people who are for you. And with a platform like LinkedIn, they've really changed so much of the platform itself that someone like myself, who's a large creator on the platform, I'd be much better served today in 2026 being a significantly smaller creator, because of how the algorithm is now structured to focus on those smaller audiences. But it's really just about ensuring the right people can find and trust you. And that's really what it comes down to. So if you're looking for a board seat, if you want a speaking opportunity, if you're looking for new clients, you're looking for an investor, a strategic partnership, if you want to go on podcasts, all of those opportunities start with the first conversation, and it's starting with the consistency. And a lot of people will say to me, Melanie, I'm having a really hard time with showing up. And, it feels like I'm in this sprint and it's taking so long. And it's just exhausting, and it's mentally exhausting, and it's physically exhausting, and just being on a phone or being on a computer and being inside an algorithm. And what I always suggest to people is pick a cadence that works for you, that will work in 6 months, that will work in a year. I have notoriously personally taken 6 weeks off of posting, or I'll go from posting 5 days a week to posting 3 days a week. So you have to understand also that as long as you build your rhythm and your cadence, that's what these platforms are going to expect. And they're also looking at your activity, and are you active? So as long as you're active, right? You're updating your LinkedIn profile as an example. You're engaging with other people through your profile. You're posting content regularly. Regularly is only going to be defined by you. That's not defined by me. These all create opportunities for you, for your business, for your career, all of the above. And that's how I would define the executive visibility strategy.
Oh, so good. Yes, every team needs the executive visibility strategy. Would love to hear your take on all of this, Lauryn, especially from a sales perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think from from a brand perspective, I'll give kind of two adds to that. I think first, the kind of I'm sick of doing this piece is when it's working. I think that's getting sick of it means that you are being consistent with your story over and over again, and that's a good thing, right? Think about how many ads and brands are thrown at us a day. Thousands of them, right? Labels on t-shirts, banners that you see online, billboards that you walk by, podcast ads, etc. You're bombarded constantly, and buyers don't have the ability or the time, the wherewithal to be able to say, oh, wait, didn't they talk about something else 3 months ago? I'm sick of what they're saying. Now they've said this too much, right? Either of those things are not going to happen. I think the consistency is a crucial problem. I brought up, Coca-Cola's happiness strategy earlier. They've been doing that since the famous "I'd like to buy the world a Coke" in 1970s. And that story of opening happiness and, the early 2000s, continues to drive what they stand for today. And they're, one of the most valuable brands in the world. They talk about, they live consistency across the board. The other point that I wanted to bring up is, I think the most important thing that Melanie has said, and Jessie, I've seen you kind of vigorously head nodding when she's talking about kind of putting the audience first. I think that piece is crucial, because what I see with enterprise executives is that they're either talking about themselves, like the business, too much and not the buyer, or they're talking about the buyer's problem exclusively, rather than sort of taking a moment and reflecting back what's at stake for the buyer, right? She's betting her entire career on a, 24-month digital transformation with half her invested. You need to make sure that she's not just informed on what you do, but she truly feels seen and that you understand what's at stake for her across the board. So I think making sure that you're understanding what's in your buyer's shoes, no matter, again, if you're talking to one person or millions, it's those 2 points I think are really crucial in the visibility piece.
Yeah, such great points. Thanks for sharing those. So how would you wrap up this topic, Melanie? I mean, I feel like it really hit home for me, especially as someone who helps other brands do this. When you said you don't help people, like, I can't remember how you phrased it, but basically like get famous. And it made me think of like people we've helped now and in the past who really want to be Instagram influencers. Like, that's a different set of content, and that's not really what we do, but we will help you go live and repurpose what you're doing to your business Instagram, if that makes sense. And if your audience is there, and we have some e-commerce, some B2C companies where Instagram really does make sense, especially for live streaming and with products, but and when you said do it for the people, for your audience, like we don't care about anyone else. If you're posting for everyone, you're posting for no one. And it those are the same people I feel like that struggle with the strategy piece, who we don't see them moving forward because they don't understand their audience and they don't understand their message. Once you get past that point, it's so much fun. You can find these repeatable things, but it is such a struggle there at that point. So I guess to wrap it up, for those who are struggling with it at this point, what might you tell them as actual advice, or those who are doing it but just feeling the pain? Like, what's that actionable advice they can take forward with them?
Yeah, I mean, if someone thinks that it's not working, whatever they're doing, or if they are kind of stuck, or they might actually be afraid of what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it might not necessarily show up as fear, but I think that, again, going back to my 1900s comment, when the internet kind of took off, and specifically with social media, and I hesitated before I wanted to show up, but I knew I had to do something, but I didn't necessarily want to be on certain platforms because I felt that my audience wasn't there, because they're not. They might be, but I can't see into them. And so what I would say to someone is, look, you have to do these things because the world of work has changed. It's not just something that has happened as a result of the pandemic. This is just the evolution over time. So you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. No one is expecting you to be an influencer, but people are expecting you to show up and be a human. That doesn't mean that you have to share your deepest, darkest secrets. It's nice when you share a little bit of yourself so people get to know you, because people buy from people they know, like, and trust. But it's something where if you are stuck with what you've been doing, try something different. Try letting people know a little bit about what happened in that meeting 20 years ago that led you from, being the receptionist to now being the CEO. Talk a little bit about the journey, because, especially with the AI times that we're in, where, people are nervous that their jobs are going to be eliminated due to AI. I mean, the way to combat that is by being more human, by sharing more. Don't just talk about the product. Don't just talk about the problems of your customers. Talk about yourself too. And it's not being overly self-promotional, because it's something that you have to just do as a part of leadership today. You don't have to be a faceless brand because your competitor is not.
That's right. You don't have to be a faceless brand. Oh, you inspire me so much. This is such a good conversation. And I'm really excited actually about transitioning into our last topic, which is building a verbal first brand system for consistency. And I don't necessarily know, Lauren, exactly what you're getting into on that one, which is why I'm excited to hear about it. But what immediately comes to mind for me is verbal first. We help people with live streaming and podcasting. And yes, like the posting and being out there is really great, but LinkedIn, all these other channels, they like when you use all their features, and going live is one of those features, and people can hear your voice. Or I don't know, is there still LinkedIn audio? They got rid of LinkedIn audio, I think. But there's LinkedIn Live, and so people can hear you, and there's podcasts, so people can hear your voice, and it's real time. And in the age of AI, it's harder to replicate and still sound real. Getting better, but like at least on video, hearing our voice and seeing our faces, it's harder to replicate, especially with conversations with people real time in the comments. But I love the idea of verbal first because it just seems like it humanizes it more, I guess. So I'm curious to hear where you're going with this, Lauren.
Yeah, great. Great setup. And transitioning a bit from what Melanie was just speaking to, kind of takes us there, right? If 10 of the right people understand your work deeply, that beats 10,000 strangers who are just skimming your posts. And that is really what we're talking about, right? It's words first, right? So most companies build their brand, in my opinion, backwards, right? You think about a brand, you close your eyes, you think about a logo. That's usually the place folks start. The colors, the website, it's the thing that resonates, the stuff that you can see, right? Then in the end, someone kind of comes in and writes some words to fit the design, and copy gets kind of thrown on there. We flip that order, and our focus is on building the words first. And now in a world of LLMs and AEO, that matters more than ever, right? Because if you think about where your brand actually lives, right, it travels through words more than through visuals, right? It might be in a sales deck that you're presenting, right? It might be in a LinkedIn Live. It might be in an investor notes after a call. It might be a Slack message from one buyer to another when you're not even in that room, right? We're talking about perception, about your brand being what others say about you when you're not in the room. It could be in all hands, right? And now, again, whatever is in ChatGPT or Claude, what those LLMs say about you when a buyer asks which vendor to trust overall. And every one of those moments is run on a story. It's run on words, right? That's why we speak about verbal first. The logo itself isn't in any of them. A logo really can't survive that buying committee. It's the language that people actually repeat that you need to hammer home. And then the visual piece is crucial to represent and carry the equity that you've created in that story that you've told, right? So that when you close your eyes and picture, again, the Coca-Cola logo, you think about happiness, right? Or someone said, Capital One, what's in your wallet, right? You close your eyes and you think about Capital One, you think about the card in the wallet, right? And that's true again of Salesforce and their kind of customer focus and customer 360. And it's true of many B2B brands as well, right? And that's the whole idea behind verbal first. Words travel, and then design represents those words, right? And I think that those stakes of words first continue to increase in the world that we're living in now, right? I think that I read a study recently that said 80% of B2B buyers say that trust in the brand is a deal breaker. Above price, above features, I need to trust this business. And that kind of trust comes from, do you deliver on your promise, right? Do you tell a story consistently everywhere? Can I find you and understand and represent that kind of repeated message that we were talking about a few minutes ago, clear enough to repeat and consistently enough that every person, every touch point, every model tells the same version, right? So when I say brand and we say verbal first, I'm talking about the words your whole company uses to explain why you matter. The looks, the execution, the marketing pieces come after and carry and represent that story, but you need to get the words right first, and make sure that they show up in every room, whether you're there or not, which I think is what LLMs are really bringing to us now with AEO, is that how do we represent ourselves when we don't control that story when someone else does?
Yes, definitely. And in the comments, we're just talking about, we love how you brought up logos, because like so many people think brand is a logo. Yep. And it's part of it, sure. But, people remember you for you. And also, I love how you talked about how word travels fast.
Yep.
You're so right. And, I've never thought of it that way, but it's it's just such a true thing. Like word travels fast. And when people talk, people connect. It's really just that simple.
Totally. Everyone's a writer. Everybody reads, right? So if your story is something that everyone is saying on your behalf, as a CEO telling the story of the company, as the marketer or the product marketer representing the business, a sales rep on a call, everyone can write. Not everyone can design. So you need to make sure that those words that everyone is saying, that single line, Melanie was talking about this at the top of the call. Can you be really clear in what you do in a single sentence? Can you say that kind of classic elevator pitch and help people understand cognitively very quickly in 5 or 10 seconds what you stand for? And can you do that consistently? Yes, your logo should represent that when you've built that equity in, but you got to make sure you nail that strategy first in order for it to do so.
I love how you put that. I never heard of that before. I never heard it put that way before, Lauryn, that words travel.
Yeah.
It's so smart. And it's so true, because especially when you're building strategy, you're building the strategy, you're building the positioning, and then everything else kind of falls into place after that.
You're exactly right.
So good.
Thanks. Yeah, no, I think we get tripped up on labeling things certain ways, right? Like I'm sure you all deal with this too. Like, when you talk about, hey, brand, people think it's soft. People think it's just a logo, or it's an immeasurable thing, or it's PR or something like that, right? And if you just think about it as simply as words, or making money for the business, or standing for, who you are when you're not in the room, or brand as a relationship, you can make sure that you're talking about things that resonate, frankly, with the CFO, right? How do we make sure that we're translating what we say and the words that travel to a shorter sales cycle, or to a higher brand value, or to, stronger pricing, right? Because at the end of the day, brand should drive choice for you, right? Someone should choose you off the proverbial shelf more often. It should drive a premium. You should be able to charge more because people say, hey, I want that brand instead of store brand, right? Or another competitor. And then loyalty, right? I want to make sure that people are sticking around because they understand that that your brand represents who they are, right? Think about, again, those Coca-Cola loyalists, right? Very different from the Pepsi loyalists in the world.
Yeah, I love that. So good. Well, to send us off on that topic, Lauryn, what actionable advice would you share with people to really help them with this?
Yeah, I would say don't be afraid to be bold. Make a decision, stand out, take a look first at what everyone else is saying in the market, decide what you can do that nobody else can, tell that human story, the one story that you can tell, whether it's you as a founder, you as a leader in your business, or it is you representing your corporate messaging. Tell the one single thing that you can tell that nobody else can tell in the story, and say it everywhere. Say it consistently. Make sure on every piece of content that you're putting out in the world, visually, verbally, in LinkedIn Lives, in every tweet that you write. You want to make sure that you're saying it consistently and standing for it. And if you do that well, right, it doesn't need to be perfect, as we talked about earlier on. You just need to make sure that you're doing your very best to make sure that you're saying the same thing over and over again, and you're saying something that's different, and standing by it. And if that's a credible story that you can tell, the right people will find you.
Exactly right. So yeah, I feel like the message for today is to be bold. We were talking about that at the beginning to wrap us up back from the beginning. Be bold or be choosy. I don't know. Do they go together?
I think it's an and, not nor. Like be bold and be choosy.
Yeah.
By the way, Boston is in that category too, by the way.
Yeah.
Boston are adjacent but aligned.
Yeah, we got the East Coast badass thing going on for sure. Yeah.
I love it. We definitely need that energy. And we did have a good question that came in. He's asking, what does the logo say or communicate about what you stand for? So like we're throwing out there that like, hey, the logo matters, but it doesn't. But what does it do? What would you both say to that?
No, I definitely think it matters. It just you need to decide what it matters first. It's like a name, right? So, Apple certainly doesn't stand for computer, but when you've built the equity of what Apple stands for in an innovation company, a human company, and a design company, et cetera, and you create that emotion that people represent with Apple. I am an Apple loyalist. I will live and die by my iPhone and my Mac, et cetera. That Apple logo means a lot to us now. But the problem is that when you just kind of say, I like the color orange, I'm going to have a logo that says is my, you know, my monogram or something like that, but there's nothing behind it that you haven't built that strategy. And then the logo doesn't mean what it needs to, it doesn't do the job that it needs to do.
Mm. Yeah.
I love that. I think it goes back to the conversation about your audience too.
Mhm.
Does your logo say to your audience what you want it to say? What you want do you want them to trust you? Is it speaking to them? Or, you know, something that I hear a lot of is, and Lauryn, I'm sure, and Jessie, you too, like people will come to me and say, well, I love this color blue. Or I love this shade of pink. And I always tell them, well, what about your audience? Who is that? Does it align with them, with their values, with who they are? Because color psychology plays into it also. And with your logo, it's completely interweaved within that.
We could have a whole LinkedIn Live on color theory. Let's do that for next one, Jessie. I'm up for it.
Like Melanie, like your blue is so B2B. It's just like, it's so like you totally targeted your audience with your blue.
I know.
It's
and I recently
beautiful.
made some changes from like to not just being blue, but also including black and cream, because I feel that it definitely also applies to those in those corporate environments.
For sure. Yeah. You got the trust of blue and you got the boldness and the sort of dichotomy of be who you are with the black and the cream. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, there might be a color podcast coming your way. That would be a really
I'm the least qualified person to be on that podcast, but I will do it all day. I have opinions in space.
Absolutely. So what's Josh saying? He says the logo is the branding. The identity within the context of competitors to reflect the ideology so customers can recognize it immediately. Okay,
Yeah.
John, I like that.
Just like a name, right? It's your first introductory statement for sure. That's how you introduce yourself.
It's a competitive tool. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It really is. Like, how do you differentiate with a visual? Because us humans, we are very visual. I mean, even from the cave days, we've been like scratching on the cave, right? So yeah, we like symbols. But
The first post.
anyway, as we wrap up, we want to know just who it is that inspires you on LinkedIn for the Guru of the Week segment.
The Guru of the Week.
Ooh, the Guru of the Week. Ooh. All right, so we want to know, who should we go follow on LinkedIn? Like, we're inspired by both of you. So who inspires you, Lauryn?
Oh man, that list is endless. I'm going to shout out a friend of mine, Justin Dunham, who owns Hercule, the analytics and AEO agency. And Justin is like this brilliant sort of in between of kind of content and word person with the technology of a coder and a sort of software. You know, the brilliance of sort of the right brain and the left brain is probably the best way to put it. And I think that he thinks about these challenges and he builds really quickly. And I just think that everything he posts is really inspiring because he actually sort of says, well, let's try it first. And to that kind of like progress, not perfection piece that we were talking about earlier, I think he really lives that.
Amazing. Okay. I just tagged him in the comments. Everyone should go spam him, tag him in the comments, say something about him. But Melanie, exactly. Let him know that Lauryn is the one who made him the Guru of the Week. But who is your Guru of the Week, Melanie?
So my Guru of the Week is my friend Valentina. It would be nice if I could say her name correctly. Valentina Escobar Gonzalez. So Valentina and I are in similar spaces. She's a personal brand consultant and a social media strategist. We met probably about a year or so ago. And she just is like the most infectious, unbelievably nice person, super, super smart. And she's just so motivational and she's so inspiring to everyone around her. And she's just so encouraging of everyone to show up. And I don't meet a lot of people that often that have just such dynamic energy. I mean, it's hard to see energy from someone. You can get a certain sense online, but when you meet someone in person, and we've met now a few times, she just has the best energy and she's just such a sweetheart. And I just wanted to shout her out because she's amazing.
Well, thank you for shouting her out. I tagged her. Hopefully I got the right Valentina Escobar Gonzalez. Okay. And hopefully I got the right Justin Dunham as well. I tagged them. If not, then feel free to tag the right one. But yeah, I'm going to definitely go follow those people, especially since both of you recommended them. And speaking of both of you, before we wrap up, one more thing, we want to hear both a little bit more from you. Who it is you serve, how you serve them, and if they could be served by you, how do they reach you? Lauryn?
Sure. So I run villainbranding.com, so you can find us there. And with Villain, we serve generally enterprise, advanced tech companies, and when they're in high stakes moments, like a major acquisition or a post IPO integration, or they've got a big perception change that they need to make. They're known for one thing and need to be known for in the market for something else. Those really high stakes moments where they need their words to travel, as we talked about. Really helping them to simplify and create a consistent and different message in the market. That is generally the problems that we solve. You can find me on LinkedIn, Lauryn Warnick, Lauryn. Warnick is Warnick, or just come to villainbranding.com and be happy to chat with you there.
Amazing. And I forgot to ask the audience too, who's your guru of the week? Like, tag someone in the comments that inspires you and help us go find some interesting content out there. And in the meantime, while the audience is telling us their guru of the week, Melanie, could you please tell us who it is you serve, how you serve them, and if they could be served by you, how do they reach you?
Sure. So I'm the founder of the Borden Group. We are a executive visibility agency. We work with founders, we work with leadership teams, I work with professionals, I work with companies, not really limited to any specific industry, although we do work in tech as well as startups. And if someone is looking to work with us, they can find us at our website, humantobrand.com. If someone is specifically interested in learning more about me, you can go to my website, which is melanieborden.com, which I launched a few weeks ago. I'm very excited about it because it took me a while to get to the point to kind of separate everything from me, from my company. But we work with leaders on becoming visible online, taking what they know and what they have become in their industry and essentially transferring it. So when someone comes to me, it's generally for one of a few reasons. Either they're looking to make a change, they're looking to leave where they are and go into a new industry, go to a new business, or they might be looking to start their own business, maybe starting over, starting something, or companies that are coming to us that want us to manage an entire executive team's LinkedIn, building out all the strategy, handling all the positioning, and also executing side by side with them, whether it's for an event or something in particular. Maybe they have a product launch or they're looking to go to market for something specific and they need that visibility. Maybe they're looking for more talent acquisition, for client acquisition, for employee retention. And those are generally the reasons that someone comes to me. Or maybe they just want to rebrand and they have a brand and they're ready to make some changes to their personal brand. We generally work with individuals versus only companies, but we do work with companies too. But the core of what I do is working, sorry, my child, is working with individuals.
I love that. Thank you both so much for sharing. Audience, we still want to hear from you if you want to tag your guru in the comments. But other than that, we're going to have another great episode. We're back every Wednesday, same time, same place, 2 guests, really great conversation. And we're on all podcast platforms. So if you miss us, you can just go binge us over there. Spotify is pretty popular. But anyway, I digress. Thank you both so much for staying up late. If you don't mind sticking around after the intro video, I'll see you backstage just to get the upload speed for our video. But otherwise, audience, we'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye.